Hello and welcome to the KE Report. I'm your host, Shad Markwitz, and we're getting an update today on Cosa Resources, traded on the TSX-V under the ticker COSA, and on the OTCQB under the ticker COSAF. And we're joined today with the president and CEO of Cosa Resources, Keith Bodnarchuk. And Keith, it's great to get you back on the show to get an update. Saw the news out that you have acquired some land contiguous to your Orbit project. Seemed worth getting you on just to tell us what the plan is here, why are you picking up more land, and how does this tie into the master plan?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me again, Shad. It's great to be here. Yeah, we did do another transaction. We've kind of have a history of this where we're always looking to, continue to upgrade our pipeline of exploration projects. It was the end of December where we acquired the Aurora project. And that's on the edge of Key Lake, right by the Cameco's Key Lake Mill. And just southwest of there is this Orbit project that we have where we originally staked about 6,000 hectares of it a couple of years ago. And we've kind of always liked the area. It's really along the same trend as Aurora. It's one of those kind of similar things that we look for in the past where you just have these little bit of an unloved, underexplored area, but it's very proximal to a lot of infrastructure. It's easy accessible. And so we completed a transaction here where we really doubled the size of the project from 6,000 hectares to just under 13,000 hectares. We completed the transaction with Skyharbour. Total consideration will be 250,000 shares of COSA. So it's another one of those really cost-effective, value accretive opportunities that we have a history of transacting on. And, we recently did some airborne geophysics. It was gravity and EM over both Aurora and Orbit. And so when this opportunity presented itself to add more of this trend in that vicinity next to Orbit, we jumped at that opportunity. And, we will have targets ready for these projects in 2025. We should be updating the market here later in the year on our results from the airborne geophysics. And it's just one of those pipeline projects that we'd like to have, right? It's what we've always expressed to the market that, Ursa is our top priority at this point. But when there's opportunity to upgrade those pipeline of projects, we'll jump at those opportunities.
Yeah, Keith, and we've talked in prior discussions that you want to have this healthy pipeline of projects because at this point, you don't really know which project may end up being the flagship or if there's multiple flagships. And so you have that traditional drill it to kill it mentality where you're looking for a reason to move on to the next project, but it's good to have a whole pipeline. You've got so many different ones that it's hard to cover them all in one discussion anyways, but I would love to just dive in just for a second longer here on Aurora and Orbit together because they are both by Cameco's Key Lake Mill. This is a prolific area, but it looks like Orbit is actually outside of the basin. So I'd love you just to share your thinking there because there's a few other companies in the sector also looking at, beyond the basin itself to make discoveries. What has your team excited about Orbit?
Yeah, definitely. And so I guess, they're the two main deposit types that people go after in the Athabasca Basin. One being the unconformity deposit, which is, Cigar Lake, McArthur River, Hurricane, Phoenix. And then the other one would be the basement hosted mineralization, which would be like NextGen's Arrow deposit. And so when you start targeting outside the basin, you'd be going for the basement style uranium deposit, similar to NextGen's Arrow deposit. So that's what we'd be targeting at our Orbit project. It's one of those ones where Ursa, is our top priority, as I mentioned, but you are drilling deeper holes there. Orbit and Aurora are shallower targets, kind of gives us a good counterbalance to going after some of those deeper targets. And why we really liked it is it ticks those boxes of one of those trends, really close to infrastructure, really close to past producing deposits that hasn't seen extensive exploration. There's a lot of space left there, a lot of meat left on the bone, as you'd say. And importantly, it is a fertile trend. Along strike of Orbit, there are past results where they get a little sniff of uranium mineralization. And that'll just tell you that there were uranium fluids that were going through the area. And we just hope somewhere along our project, we're able to find an area where you do get a little more concentration of some of that higher grade uranium. So it does tick all those boxes of what we look for. Like I said, it's unloved, really overlooked trend, I would say, that's been upgraded over the past few years. And it's just wide open. We have a lot of room to really explore here. And importantly, it is shallow targets. It's very cost effective exploration with easy access.
All right, well, we'll look for those targets to start developing as you put out more information from those airborne geophysics surveys you did later in the year and look to drill it maybe next year along with Aurora. So we'll keep our eyes peeled for that news as it comes. But I do want to pivot over to something a little more imminent. And as we've discussed, Ursa is the primary focus right now. We're not that far away from the drills starting to turn in mid-August. Walk us through again the general plan at the Ursa project, and this is in the Cable Bay Shear Zone. Exciting targets to go after following up on last year's work.
Yeah, for sure. No, we are excited to get back there. We obviously had some very exciting initial results there with our inaugural drill program in the wintertime. And the big thing will be following up UR 2403, which is our third hole from the winter program. It looks like one of those classic overshoots of the optimal target. And so we'll be able to follow that up here later in August, and we should be able to update the market on that. And also importantly, we did complete an ANT, basically a seismic survey over top of the Ursa project, really covering the area we drilled in the winter, plus, extending both in the north and south direction of there. And we should be able to update the market on that later this summer, which will help guide us for the drill program. But importantly enough, we'll be following up that third hole to start our drill program. So it's very exciting. We'll be drilling, through the end of August all the way through September. And so keep an eye out for that news flow.
Any idea, Keith, on the number of holes, the depth of the holes, how many meters you may be drilling, like a rough ballpark?
So I think we'll update the market on that, but it'll be very, at minimum, it'll be similar to our winter program. And, with opportunities to expand upon that. It's one of those things where if the results merit it, we'll keep going, right? And we do have a full treasury that could take us throughout, all the way throughout 2024. So we're in good shape that way, where we do have flexibility to continue to explore further if we want to, or if the results, maybe don't justify expanding the drill program, we can kind of take a step back and say, you know what, let's save a bit of the treasury and let's forward this on to 2025, where we can go back.
All right, so you've got some optionality there to go either way. If you hit the pay dirt, you can press your bets. If it's not giving you the results you want, you can retool because you got a lot of other targets to go after. One other thing I'd love to get your thoughts on while I got you, Keith, is just the general sentiment and the general seasonality that we see in the uranium sector this time of year. I mean, for a lot of markets, especially in the commodities, we're in that proverbial summer doldrum period. So whether it's gold and silver or copper or a lot of the base metals, not a lot of excitement. That sometimes means there's opportunities to be had to position while no one's paying attention, but it's also related to news flow and that we now are starting to see more drilling gearing up, so the news flow is coming. So after having spent such a long time in the uranium sector, maybe just talk to investors that may be listening that are frustrated, Keith. They're sad that their uranium stocks are not going up. How would you counsel them through this period of time?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can relate with a lot of your listeners, but there is a seasonality to uranium for sure. I think you often see in September when you get close to the WNA conference that you will see some activity in the uranium space start to heat up. Importantly, you should see a lot more buying on the spot market, which should be able to drive up the price. Importantly, you have seen the uranium price stabilize, right? You're seeing it hovering around low 80s and continue to stay at that price, which is a great sign just on, how strong I'd say the uranium markets has become. And just when you go through these seasonality points, I mean, they happen every year, nothing to worry about. The fundamentals of uranium remain as strong as ever. And I think you will see, at the second half of August and in through September and into the fall, activity to pick up again in the uranium space. And, importantly, there remains a lot of catalysts that can really drive this uranium price. And obviously the seasonality aspect of it will help, but there remains really large overarching catalysts that could really elevate the uranium price here, I think, into Q4, pushing it back, hopefully north of $100 again, like it was earlier. And so, we're excited for that. It's tough to sit through these summer months here where, it seems like the stocks are just flat or even there's negative pressure on them. But as an investor myself, I always feel that's some of the best opportunity. You'd have seen me buying recently. I've kind of been steadily buying COSA. I usually try to buy, every few months. And it's just another great opportunity, I think, to get into some of these stocks, including COSA, which, as we start working towards drilling and should be drilling here in the fall, hopefully with some tailwinds in the uranium space picking up, it could be perfect timing.
Yeah, it could be a perfect storm to make a new discovery at the same time uranium prices do a rebound. But nice to see you on the SETI filings, Keith, buying. And I should disclose that I've also been buying into the weakness. Sometimes it's good just to dollar cost average into periods of time like this. Not investment advice, but just people say you should buy low, and in the sector in uranium, there's a lot of companies on discount sale, including Cosa Resources. But you've got a lot of news catalysts coming up, and we'll definitely keep following along with the news here at the KE Report. If people listening in would like to follow the news, definitely click on the link below this interview. Takes you right over to the Cosa Resources website, straight to their news section, so you can watch out for news as it hits the market. And Keith, keep us posted as more news breaks. We'll get you back on for an update. Good luck with the drilling, and looking forward to our next conversation.
Yeah, me too. Thanks a lot, Shad.